Well, this is awesome. I'm so happy to welcome you to my new studio, which is in Republic Square in Yerevan, which you can see if you. This is the National Gallery of Armenia, and it's amazing. But I'm here today with a retired colonel of the U.S. Army, Greg Pipes, and Greg was also the military attaché to the embassy here. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we met at the time when you were serving here, and so now we're back in Yerevan, and I heard you give a really interesting talk about what now the U.S. is doing or helping to broker here in Armenia, and I want to talk about that. The Trump Road. And what is the IPP?
The Trump Road for International Peace and Prosperity.
That's right, the TRIPP. The TRIPP Road.
The TRIPP Road.
That's awesome. Okay, well, all right, so tell me a little bit about it, because you had some really interesting thoughts to share about this.
So I'm really excited about the TRIPP for a variety of reasons. But I think first and foremost because it addresses a problem that we've been trying to fix for decades. Since 1994, the U.S., together with Russia and France in the Minsk group, has been trying to solve Armenia and Azerbaijan. And Armenia, Azerbaijan, the South Caucasus, that's a problem that we studied in our military schools as an example of a wicked problem, a problem that is so complex it has no clear solution. And over the years, those countries went at it, trying to solve, those countries being U.S., France, and Russia, trying to get Armenia and Azerbaijan to agree and to stop fighting. In my personal opinion, we were just going at it saying, please stop fighting. Oh, please stop. Why? Because you shouldn't. War's not the answer. I don't like war at all. As a military guy, I don't want war. However, that doesn't stop people from pursuing it. And so Trump, in 6 months, is able to get Aliyev and Pashinyan, the two leaders of these two countries, to shake hands and agree on a new framework for actual peace. And traveling back here after 2 years being gone, I see a hope here that we don't see before. So let me get into the details there.
Yeah.
So the road is going to go along the very south of Armenia and right above the Iranian border, incidentally. That makes it a little bit dicey and complex, but it goes along an old rail route that was existing during the Soviet times. I've driven that road. It still is basically a rail bed that you can drive from one end of Armenia to the other. And what it does, if it works, is it connects Azerbaijan to Nakhichevan. Now, Nakhichevan is Azerbaijan's exclave on the other side of Armenia. It's totally non-contiguous with Azerbaijan. So right now the borders are closed between these two places, and in order for Azerbaijan to get anything to Nakhichevan, it has to go through Georgia, then down through Turkey. This could allow that transit to go super smooth. I forget exactly how far, but it's less than 100 kilometers, I believe. So what that's going to do is, if you open that up for trade, then you have Azerbaijan being able to connect to their other country, their other exclave, and that exclave borders Turkey. Turkey borders the Mediterranean. So now Azerbaijan, which is a landlocked nation, can now get into the Mediterranean. And not only them, because if you keep on going back and you have the Caspian Sea after Azerbaijan, and then after Azerbaijan after the Caspian is Kazakhstan and the rest of the Central Asian states. So suddenly the Central Asian states, if you look, you got to look on a map. And maybe you in your podcast you put up a map.
I should do B-roll of the map.
You look at that and you see that all those other states, if they want to get anything out, they got to go through Russia or China or Iran or Afghanistan. I mean, not good options. So you get this route working and you'll be able to get products from all the way deep in the Central Asian states to the Mediterranean.
Do you think, is this what Trump had in mind? Like to transcend just the conflict that nobody's heard of, Armenia, Azerbaijan, unfortunately? No, not many people are aware of it.
I don't think that this is about just because he wanted peace. I think it's because those markets are huge for American interests. Trump's policy is America first. So why is he doing this? Just recently, he held a big conference with all nations from all those states, all the 5 Central Asian states, and brought them together. And all of these guys are talking about the Trump Road for International Peace and Prosperity. because they
Really?
want their goods to be able to get to the Mediterranean. And so that's how they're going to do it. So this is great for them, and then Armenia can be, if this is done right. There's so much stuff to work out. This is a hard thing. I mean, engineering the road is going to be hard. Getting all the agreements, the transshipment. What can be shipped? Can military supplies be shipped across? That's a crazy hard question. How are they going to pay transshipment fees and stuff like that? It opens up lots of possibilities. There's a lot of challenges still to go.
Will Iran be able to continue to travel north-south?
Iran had always said that that's a deal breaker, and that they are going to have major problems. So as I understand, that is still in the cards, because Armenia gets a whole lot of supplies from Iran.
Right.
And so Iran is very limited in what they can do. But they're a friend here in Armenia, which is just a crazy thing to think about, but it is.
It's like true. Politics makes for strange bedfellows.
Yes.
And so, but that aside, so Iran, but its only outlet of shipping to the north is through Armenia.
It really is, because they're not very good friends with Azerbaijan. Their relationship with Turkey is really rough, and that's who borders them. So and Russia. So
all right. So before, you also mentioned Central Asia, and you specifically mentioned Kazakhstan.
Right.
And Kazakhstan was like the big surprise announcement just like a couple weeks ago that Kazakhstan, never mentioned before in all of the speculation, is joining the Abraham Accords.
Right.
Which is the normalization agreements between Israel and outlying Muslim nations.
Right. Because these Central Asian nations are Muslim majority nations. And so Kazakhstan coming to the Abraham Accords got me thinking, wait a second, there might be a connection with TRIPP on this too. So this is just pure conjecture from my side. But how in the world is Kazakhstan going to get their goods to Israel? Maybe through TRIPP. So now if Abraham Accords goes all the way up to the rest of Central Asia, then we have Israel now being interested. And here's what this does, Nicole, is that as a result, there's so many reasons why President Aliyev in Azerbaijan wouldn't want to attack across this corridor to reunite Nakhchivan and Azerbaijan. Not only does he have a major U.S. investment, because the U.S. is going to be the one funding this road, major U.S. investment, that the U.S. would be very upset. He would have now all these states, these Central Asian states, trying to get their goods across. Now he potentially has Israel upset with him. And last I checked, Israel provides a lot of military hardware to Azerbaijan. So what it does is it disincentivizes conflict. So in this world, I don't think we can have true peace, but we can do a lot of things to pull back conflict and disincentivize nations so that they're not inclined to do that. They see the cost. And I believe during the Minsk years, there was so little cost to Azerbaijan to doing the harassing things and the pushing in things they were doing against Armenia, and no one was stopping them. But now a lot of people are paying attention. So it's exciting times.
Okay. That's interesting, because it's not necessarily the opinion held by some Armenians. Like, I don't know what the breakdown is, if it's 50-50 or if it's a majority are against or a majority are for.
Right.
But a lot of Armenians are skeptical, especially in the diaspora. They're very skeptical of peace with Azerbaijan.
I understand that. I mean, the Armenian history has every reason to have concern about anybody of Turkic background, right? Azerbaijanis or Turks or anything. And the fear that Armenia, who is a very vulnerable nation, geographically in the middle of nowhere, dependent on external forces, to external countries to get anything out. I respect and understand that. But I don't know of a better solution. And bringing in, Armenia has been a country that over the years, they were either under the influence of the Ottomans or the Persians or the Russians and others. Now we're bringing in the West a lot more, and the United States having an influence here. That could be a very positive thing. And of course, there's a few Armenians in the United States as well.
Like in that city called LA, which I think stands for Little Armenia.
Yes.
I've heard.
Well, and I didn't grow up in Fresno, but my family's from Fresno, where there's a lot of Armenians.
Right, that's right. That's right. Well, it's interesting. One of the other topics that it was part of this whole, surrounding the TRIPP road is the potential for new commerce for Armenia. So I'm just looking at it and thinking, okay, what are we looking at in southern Armenia, and actually in Armenia in general, because of this?
Right. Who knows? We had a really neat panel discussion where I was on the panel as more of the security military expert, but with some banking guys and also an industry entrepreneur. And there's discussions of, if we could actually have things going cross-border where a factory can be on both sides and they're working to support each other, or Armenia could have a lot of factories down there that then is exporting along that road and getting it out to the Mediterranean. So there's who knows what's going to happen with it, but it could be not only bringing peace, but also that's why it's the peace and prosperity road, because it could bring prosperity to Armenia and also more broadly to the region. So
it's just very interesting when you were broadened it to Central Asia, and just thinking Caspian Sea, Azerbaijan, Armenia, onward. It's more. I think there's more to than meets the eye, or more than I assumed.
And if this first 9-10 months of the Trump presidency, he often brags about all the peace deals he signed, and I got to be very involved with one of those with India, Pakistan. I was working in the White House when that happened. And you saw Cambodia, Thailand, and some in Africa, and etc. Those paled in comparison, in my opinion, to this one, because this was the hardest challenge. Like I said, it's the wicked problem. How can you possibly solve this? And he solved it by making incentives and economic desires. Because, does Aliyev want peace? Everybody thought, he doesn't. It doesn't really matter what he wants, but he definitely wants prosperity. Because he needs, like every leader. If they don't have prosperity in their country, they're going to lose power. And so bring prosperity to your people, and you'll do better politically yourself. So it's absolutely brilliant. My only complaint is that this was announced on a Friday. And in the U.S. news cycle, if it happens on a Friday, you forget about it by Monday. And I thought this was the best thing ever done. I was like, why couldn't you have waited till Monday? But that's a silly aspect of it.
It really took me by surprise too. I think it was in the U.S. when this was announced, and I was just like, what just happened? Even worse in Israel on a Friday, because everything shut down. So that's when they announced the Friday news dump. Exactly. But this is amazing. This is really food for thought in the geopolitical complications of this region. I think it's going to be interesting.
Right, I can't wait to watch it. And looking here, it's dominating the news cycle. Everybody talks about TRIPP all the time. So we're really excited to see how it's going to work out, and praying for peace and prosperity for Armenia and the region.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your expertise. This was really, really, really great.
Love it.
Thank you.